However, the Department of Homeland Security assesses these types of systems were not involved in vote tallying. Russia's state-run propaganda machine contributed to the influence campaign by serving as a platform for Kremlin messaging using Russian government-funded outlets such as RT. Moscow has long sought to undermine U.S.-led liberal democratic order. Russia, like its Soviet predecessor, has a history of conducting covert influence campaigns focused on U.S. presidential elections. They've used intelligence officers, influence agents, and press placements to disparage candidates perceived as hostile to the Kremlin. Moscow's behavior reflects Russia's more aggressive cyber posture in recent years, which poses a major threat to U.S. military, diplomatic, commercial, and critical infrastructure networks, as well as we've seen now, our elections. However, Russia's activities in 2016 demonstrated a significant escalation in directness, level of activity, and scope of effort compared to previous operations. And we assess Moscow will apply the lessons learned from the 2016 campaign aimed in the future to influence efforts worldwide, including against U.S. allies. I'd like to wrap up by saying I've now got just 10 days left in my 53 years or so in the intel business, and I've seen the IC get things right and get things wrong. But I believe the level of professional tradecraft and cross-agency intelligence integration required to put this report together gives me great confidence that we've gotten it right here. With that, we'll open for your questions.
Do I have your assurance that you will provide the access that they need to the reporting necessary to make their conclusions?
Yes.
Director Comey, let me talk about forensics for just a minute, because the FBI has the expertise there. And I know there's tremendous investigative value when the FBI is actually able to conduct their own forensics review on devices that have suffered cyber intrusions and attacks. I believe there's some confusion, though, or at least some conflicting reporting as to whether the FBI requested access to the DNC's services, the Democratic Congressional Committee servers, and John Podesta's personal devices. Did the FBI request access to those devices to perform forensics on?
Yes, we did.
And would that access have provided intelligence or information helpful to your investigation and possibly to the findings included in the intelligence community assessments?
Our forensics folks would always prefer to get access to the original device or server that's involved. So it's the best evidence.
Were you given access to do the forensics on those servers?
We were not. We were a highly respected private company, eventually got access and shared with us what they saw there.
But is that typically the way the FBI would prefer to do the forensics, or would your forensics unit rather feel the servers and do the forensics themselves?
We'd always prefer to have access hands-on ourselves, if that's possible.
Do you know why you were denied access to those servers?
I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
Was there one request or multiple requests?
Multiple requests at different levels. And ultimately what was agreed to is the private company would share with us what they saw.
There's been much debate over the content released by WikiLeaks. Director Clapper, and I should say DC Leaks, and what the intentions were behind those disclosures. Director Clapper, you made it perfectly clear in your testimony that the community feels that vote tallies were not altered.
That's correct.
Do you believe there's any evidence that the DNC or the DCCC or the Podesta emails released publicly were altered in any way?
We have no evidence of that.
Director Comey, do you have any intelligence that any Republican system that was targeted by these same groups was either successfully penetrated, or if penetrated and there was data exfiltrated, was there any exfiltration?
There were successful penetrations of some groups and campaigns, particularly at the state level on the Republican side of the aisle, and some limited penetration of old Republican National Committee domains.
Penetrations of those National Committee domains?
Right, that were no longer in use.
Okay. And from a standpoint of Republican candidates that were running for president, were those campaigns, any of those campaigns targeted under the same effort by the Russians?
The campaigns themselves, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, let me thank you, Director Clapper, for your report and the point that you continue to make that it was not your job to analyze the effects in terms of the political campaign. I would add that any of us who are up here who've ever been through a close election means that any small item can either be cause or harm. I want to follow up on where the chairman was headed. Dr. Comey, there was some information, though, that was taken from Republican-affiliated entities. There was a great deal of information taken from Democrats. There was selective leaking, as the director has indicated, with a clear political intent in process. One of the things that I'm flabbergasted is that somehow this is viewed by some as in the rearview mirror. I mean, don't the Russians have the capability of taking even if it's old information about Republicans or other information about Democrats and selectively leak that prospectively?
Sure.
And could you describe, to my mind, this is not only one of the most significant items I've seen in my political life, but this is an ongoing threat to all of us and our electoral process. We have to be on guard, and could you speak, or any of the members of the panel speak to the fact that do you expect to see similar tactics used by Russians in terms of the upcoming elections in Germany, France, and the Netherlands?
Yes, we do.
And are our allies taking what's happened in America with significant enough importance, and are they putting up new defenses trying to guard against these activities?
I can't say, at least I can, maybe others can here, the extent to which they have reacted to this, but they are certainly aware. Europe has long been a target of Russian attempts to manipulate electoral processes, so they will continue with that. And certainly because of the controversy that's generated in our country, I think that will reinforce their desire to do that.
One of the things that actually another member of the committee raised is certain Russian activities, again, just to go to the seriousness not only retrospectively but prospectively, that I believe there was a Russian dissident in London where Russian agents, in effect, planted false information in this individual's personal file and then called law enforcement and said, look in this person's file, and there was criminal child pornography placed there. Could you anticipate at some time Russia trying, if we don't take more aggressive actions, trying those actions against American public officials?
The Russians, I think, have no compunction about using the full array of tools and techniques available in their kit bag. So I wouldn't put it past them to do that, or any other tools they've used, such as paying people to participate in social media, for example.
And this has been described as, in effect, the new normal for Russian doctrine. Is that correct?
I believe, yes.